Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress. Only 69 days left till the World Championship match between World Champion Magnus Carlsen and his challenger Fabiano Caruana. They will play in November in London for the world title. It's the 47th match in the history of the official and undisputed World Championship. And on Chess to Impress we keep counting down, building up to the great match by looking at the first 46 events. And we have arrived at World Champion, the fourth World Champion Alexander Aljochin, defending his title for the first time against Efim Bogoljubov in 1929. After the match against Capablanca, Aljochin agreed to a rematch. Messages went back and forth between Aljochin and Capablanca on the conditions for the rematch. In the meantime, Efim Bogoljubov had also challenged Aljochin, who called Bogoljubov a more dangerous opponent. Efim Dmitrievich Bogoljubov was born on April 14, 1889 in Stanislavitsk, near Kiev. That was in Russia, nowadays it's in Ukraine. He already had played a match with Aljochin in 1921, so 8 years before this match, which had ended in a draw. Bogoljubov had many tournament successes, but his results lacked consistency. The Wiener Schachzeitung noted that prior to the match no one in the chess world had even the slightest doubt about Aljochin winning, except for Bogoljubov himself, who was known as a person with unbridled optimism. The match was held in several cities in Germany and the Netherlands, over 30 games and 6 wins, which is quite interesting. Not only was it the best of 30 games, within those 30 games he also had to win 6 games. And also interesting was that the second world champion Emanuel Lasker was the arbiter for the games played in Berlin. This is a picture of the match. We have world champion Alexander Aljochin on the left and his challenger Efim Bogoljubov on the right. We're going to have a look at game 8 of this match, where Bogoljubov was white and Aljochin was black. It was played on the 19th of September 1929. d4 from the challenger and knight f6 from the champion. c4 and b6 gives white a free hand in the center, at least for the moment. Knight c3, bishop b7 and f3, attempting to blunt the bishop on b7. d5, black cannot really afford white to play e4 and get total control of the center. He has to get a foothold in the center. Bogoljubov took, knight takes, and e4, kicking that knight straight away. Knight takes on c3, b takes, and this structure can also arise from the Grunfeld Indian defense. e6, Bogoljubov gave a check, and here c6 does win a tempo on the bishop, but it's not a move you want to play with black, blocking in your own bishop. So knight d7 was Aljochin's choice. Knight e2, bishop e7, white castles, and a6, kicking the bishop back. And now c5. Black does not want to commit his king yet to either side. He's keeping his king in the center for the moment. There's a saying in chess, only castle when you have nothing better to do. And Aljochin shows this. For the moment he's making other moves instead of castling. Bishop b2 from Bogoljubov, and white will regret this move later in the game. He could have developed his bishop to e3 here instead. Queen c7 and f4, going forward, taking space. The downside is that it makes this bishop a somewhat better piece, with the f-pawn no longer on f3. e5 is another good alternative, as given by Grandmaster Erik Hansen, who analyzed this game. But f4 was played. Knight f6, putting pressure on the e4 pawn, and knight g3, protecting the pawn on e4. But the knight is not very stable there, and Aljochin recognizes that and plays h5. This is possible because black has not castled kingside yet, otherwise it would be too risky. And also otherwise this pawn would be just hanging on h5. But now it's possible. You don't really want to play h4 here, That's not a great move because then there is knight g4 and you're already threatening knight e3 and you're threatening bishop takes h4. h4 is not a move white wants to play. He played queen e2, h4 kicking the knight, and the knight went to h1. It's always exciting when a knight goes to a corner square, where he only covers 2 squares, a really bad square for the knight, but this knight will come back into the game through f2. Knight h5, very energetically played by Alekhine, attacking the f4 pawn, queen g4, protecting that pawn, and finally on the 17th move, Alekhine castles and he goes queenside. This is now possible as a6 is no longer hanging, with the queen no longer on e2. Rook ae1, preparing to push pawns in the center. King b8, we very often see that in Grandmaster games. When they castle queenside, they very often put the king on a safer square from the c file to the b file. f5 from Bogoljubov, and here e takes f5 is good for black. No matter how white recaptures, he can recapture in 3 ways. If you take with the rook, then bishop c8 is a good move with a nice skewer. If you take with the pawn instead, then bishop d6 is a good move. And if you take with the queen, then f6 is the best move. But after f5, Alekhine decided not to take. He played e5, also a good move, closing the center and intending to attack on the king side. d5, that's a nice protected pass pawn, and c4 to avoid white playing c4 himself, which would reinforce the pass pawn on d5, and also, very importantly, it would improve that bishop. c4, a very instructive move from Alekhine. Bishop c2, bishop c5 check, knight interposes, and g6, trying to open up lines against white's king, while the rest of the pawn structure is closed, so it's not easy for white to start a counter-attack in the center or on the queen side. Black has a free hand to attack himself on the king side where white's king is located. Bogoljubov took, rook dg8, bishop c1, you have to do something with that bishop, that's doing nothing on b2, and bishop c8, mirroring white's last move. Alekhine wants to have all his pieces at the party in the attack against white's king. This move is attacking the queen. Queen takes h4 is very dangerous because of knight f4, attacking the queen with a big advantage for black. Bogoljubov wisely did not take the pawn. He dropped back to f3 with the queen. Rook takes, king steps aside, and now look at this move. A beautiful move from world champion Alekhine. Knight g3 check. Black already has a winning attack. If you go to g1, then black just takes the exchange. King takes, and the other rook to the g file. Big advantage for black. So after knight g3 check, white took. Alekhine took back, giving check, discover check to the king. And if you go to g1 with the king, then there is g takes f2 check, rook takes, and bishop g4. Queen g3, the queen does not have many squares, and then bishop e2, attacking the queen, and black has a winning position. After h takes g3 check, Bogoljubov did not play his king to g1, he went with the knight to h3. Alekhine took it, g takes, rook takes, and here Bogoljubov resigned on move 29. There's only one move, and after king g2, rook h2 is checkmate. Another wonderful game from Alekhine. He delayed castling, and when the pawn structure was closed in the center and on the queen side, he started a massive attack on the king side, resulting in checkmate. And as you see from the position, Alekhine did not even need his queen in the attack to deliver checkmate. And Alekhine won the match and remained world champion. They played a total of 25 games. By that time Alekhine had got the 15.5 points that was needed. He also got the 6 wins, in fact he got 11 wins. Bogoljubov got 5. And as you can see, 5 years later Alekhine defended his title again against the same opponent. And how that came about I will tell you in the next video. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel and please leave a comment. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share this video and the series on social media by using the share option on YouTube. The link to the playlist of this series is here. And this is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.